afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my presentation. My name is Mary Scates. The topic of my presentation is Victorian literature with an emphasis on the Victorian novel Alice in Wonderland. What do you get when you cross the straight-laced manners of Victorian era with the illogical dream of a little girl? Why, Alice in Wonderland, of course. The reason that this topic is useful for you is that many famous authors come from the Victorian literary period. And the more you know about the time period they lived in, the more you will understand their writing. We're going to talk about three things. They are, firstly, I will summarize the Victorian literary period. Secondly, I will tell you about the historical period of the Victorian era. And finally, we're going to look at the heroine, Alice, of the book Alice in Wonderland, authored by Lewis Carroll in 1865. Due to the limited time I have, 3 to 5 minutes, I request that you keep your questions till the end of my presentation. Firstly, I will summarize the literary period. The Victorian literary period coincides with the historical time period of the same name. Queen Victoria reigned from 1837 to 1901. All literary works produced during this time frame are referred to as Victorian literature. Although poetry was enjoyed at the time, the more commonly read form of literature was the novel. The novel was to Victorians what TV is to us today. According to Deidre David in her book, The Victorian Novel, the main subject matter of the Victorian novel is the relationship between self and society. A typical Victorian novel has many characters and a complex plot. Many have a plot that includes a crime or a secret that must be revealed. Famous authors of the period include Charles Dickens, the Bronte sisters, George Eliot, Robert Louis Stevenson, and H.G. Wells. Their works include Oliver Twist, A Christmas Story, Wuthering Heights, Jane Eyre, The Mill on the Floss, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Treasure Island, The Time Machine, and The War of the Worlds. That's the end of the first point. Now we'll move on to the second point, which is about the historical period. Victorian England was a period of rapid change. The Industrial Revolution was making the rich richer and the poor poorer. People who had been farming the land were moving into the cities to work in the factories. Cities were becoming dirty and overcrowded. People's way of thinking was changing too. Charles Darwin's theory on evolution were challenging the church. Women were rallying for the right to vote and rallying for the rights of working children. Many writers saw it as their duty to point out the social ills of their time in their writings. That's the end of the second point. Lastly, we will move to the third point, which is about the book, Alice in Wonderland, and its heroine, Alice. Some may say that Alice is simply the protagonist of this story, but Alice does share some of the qualities we see in classical heroes and heroines. First of all, heroes are brave. This is a story of survival. Alice has to find her way through a strange world with no one to rely on but herself. She grows and shrinks from eating strange foods, she meets a cat who disappears, and she becomes so confused that she's not even sure if she's herself anymore. Yet she keeps going. Secondly, heroes accept challenges. The Queen of Hearts challenges Alice to a game of croquet. Alice accepts, even though she knows the Queen has a nasty temper. She also doesn't hesitate to play the game, even when she sees that the croquet mallets are flamingos. Finally, heroes are people of action. When the Queen threatens to chop off Alice's head, Alice yells, "You're nothing but a pack of cards!" and sends them all flying into the air. That's all for this point. In conclusion, in this presentation, my objectives were to inform you about the changes that were taking place in the Victorian era, how this affected the literature of its time, and to tell you that Alice from Alice in Wonderland has heroic qualities. I have covered my three main points. First, we summarize the Victorian period First, we summarize the Victorian literary period. Second, we talked about the historical Victorian period. And finally, we discussed the heroine Alice in the book Alice in Wonderland, authored by Lewis Carroll. I hope you have found this presentation useful. Thank you. Any questions? If there are no more questions, then this is the end of my presentation.